I do want to take a quick break from my interview with Eduardo to mention the sponsor that makes this interview possible, America's Card Room, an online poker site that offers currently over 60 different cryptocurrencies. You can find everything you need to know at ymb.tc/poker, and don't forget to use the code BTC100 for a 100% bonus at America's Card Room. Again, visit ymb.tc/poker and start gaming on America's Card Room today. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me on another episode of You, Me, and BTC, your Liberty and Bitcoin podcast. Today we have a pretty special interview on this episode. I'm here with Eduardo Gomez, who's a tech writer and head of support at Purse.io. We mentioned and frequently lauded the great work that Purse does. It's a great platform. And we're incredibly blessed to have the opportunity to chat with Eduardo. Thankfully, Tim and Dan are elsewhere right now, so you only have me. And for a little bit, we're going to chat about Bitcoin in Venezuela. Eduardo is Venezuelan and works out of Venezuela, and he's going to chat with us a little bit about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin specifically in Venezuela. Thanks for joining us, Eduardo. We appreciate it.
Hey, Zach. Thank you so much. I'm very glad to join you on this quick interview. Well, you pretty much just gave a presentation of myself. Like Zach said, my name is Eduardo. I've been since in this Bitcoin space since 2012. At least that's when I discovered Bitcoin, 2012, back when it was worth something like $13. And yeah, I was lucky to mine a couple of Bitcoin with a mid-tier GPU at the time. And for those who don't know, the reason why Bitcoin is popular here in Venezuela is because the main reason why Bitcoin has been becoming a thing in Venezuela is because back in 2002, the Venezuelan president at the time, Hugo Chavez, he pretty much instituted a currency control mechanism. And that currency control mechanism pretty much made accessing foreign currency and international markets impossible for a regular citizen. So in 2012, I was, a freshman in college, 17-year-old kid looking for ways to generate income online. And I discovered, wow, this amazing digital currency that you could use to send payments and receive payments. And I was digging a little bit into it, and I discovered, hey, so I can generate income using my GPU. And yeah, so I mined a couple of bits, and unfortunately I completely forgot about it. And I started to hear about Bitcoin again in 2013 with the bubble, and Bitcoin hitting $1,000, and
Yeah.
And I think when people hear me saying, "Hey, so I discovered Bitcoin in 2012," people immediately think that I'm like a millionaire. And
Sure, yeah.
yeah, and I even though I stopped mining it, and I just like generated like 3 BTC or 2 BTC, I can't exactly remember. And but the thing is, I consider myself a very lucky person because I was able to solve my BTC on empty GOX at
Wow.
at the peak, like nearly the peak, and I was able to get the fiat out of empty GOX. So I consider myself pretty lucky.
Yeah, that is pretty lucky. That's funny. We on a previous episode just the other week we were chatting, Tim and Dan. I came into Bitcoin after MTGOX collapsed, but they sort of went through all of that too. And I don't know if they were that lucky, but that's pretty lucky.
So then I retook interest into Bitcoin in 2015, shortly before the whole Grexit thing, and rumors of Greece leaving the European Union, and that started the small rally on the BTC price, and that's when you can when people can say that's when this whole Bitcoin rally started to take place, which is taking us to the current BTC price, which is $15,000.
Sure. Yeah. So for those who don't know, you can follow Eduardo on Twitter at Cardiox. Follow him on Twitter, highly recommended. But Eduardo, on your bio, it says you've been using crypto to survive since 2012. So even though you sort of stopped mining, now day to day, do you strictly use cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, or what do you mean by using it to survive?
Yeah, the, many. I think it isn't just me. I mean, many Venezuelans
Okay.
use it day to day. I use it, particularly me. I work at Purse, and it's an amazing service. Lets you buy things from Amazon, paying with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I use it because I get paid directly in Bitcoin, and many people who work in the industry get paid directly in Bitcoin. And what I mean by that is that when I receive a payment in Bitcoin, I have to slowly convert it to my local currency to be able, to buy stuff. And Bitcoin has become a central part of my life, in the sense that uh, you know working in this country is very bad rewarded. I mean, the minimum salary in Venezuela, believe it or not, for those who are hearing this interview, the minimum salary, the monthly minimum wage in Venezuela is about $6.
Wow.
So it can take you, just to put things into perspective, a Venezuelan needs 23 years to be able to buy the new iPhone X.
Wow.
That's how much time
Wow.
a Venezuelan will have to work to be able to buy an iPhone X. And the way I use Bitcoin is I get paid in Bitcoin directly, and each week I convert Bitcoin to my local currency, and that way I circumvent inflation and currency devaluation that is affecting this country. Uh,
Sure, sure. I was just curious if you or your other friends are, because some of the people that I'm familiar with here in the States that are big into Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, even though I'm sort of strictly a fan of Bitcoin, they enjoy dabbling in trading or using other cryptocurrencies. Do you sort of strictly use Bitcoin in your payments and purchases, and maybe other investments, or do other people, friends, coworkers in Venezuela, dabble in other currencies? Are other cryptocurrencies popular?
Yeah, I wrote an article for Blog Channel. My friend Steve Mackey, and the central theme of that article was that Venezuelans, I mean, Bitcoin is king, right? Bitcoin is king
Sure.
in the cryptocurrency scene, and many Venezuelans, they mainly use Bitcoin, but for the purposes of mining cryptocurrency, Bitcoin is not king. At least it
Sure.
isn't
Huh.
anymore. The central theme of that article was how many Venezuelan miners have transitioned from mining Bitcoin to uh, alternative currencies like Ethereum and Zcash. And the reason why that is because importing Bitcoin miners into Venezuela is very dangerous. People at customs offices and government officers and workers, they know what a Bitcoin miner is. I mean, pretty much, people don't believe the general people don't believe this, but pretty much the high-ranking government officials, they all know about Bitcoin. They have Bitcoin, and they're actively seeking to blackmail cryptocurrencies users here in Venezuela. So
Wow.
we have been seeing things like miners getting arrested and things like that. Just at the beginning of this year, that's when I can say that it all peaked in the arresting of miners.
Yeah.
At the
Yeah.
beginning of this year, we saw crazy news like one of the biggest Latin American farms, mining farms, getting seized by the government. And of course, all those miners that they seized, they're being used, but just by them, by the government, or by the officials or the government officials who were lucky enough to discover that mine and seize it from the rightful owners. So that's what we're seeing here in Venezuela. Government officials stealing miners from other people, from cryptocurrency users, and people transitioning away from Bitcoin mining into alternative currency mining. And the main reason is, Ethereum or Zcash, they're mined by GPUs, and it's obviously it's much more simple and safer to import a GPU than a Bitcoin miner, because a GPU you can say, hey, so I use it for my computer, right?
Sure,
So
sure.
a Bitcoin miner, you cannot hide it. Like I said, government officials and workers at the custom office they know what a Bitcoin miner is.
Wow. So when you're paid in Bitcoin or pay for things in Bitcoin and convert Bitcoin to your local currency, are governing officials in Venezuela trying to make that any of those actions more difficult, besides just arresting miners and trying to, like you said, acquire more Bitcoin for themselves? Are they putting pressure on people who use Bitcoin in day-to-day transactions like that?
Well, that's an interesting question. I won't say exactly that they're making it difficult. It's just that the economy in Venezuela is pretty much just driven by the U.S. dollar. So
Sure.
due to this currency restriction that the government imposed in 2002, pretty much over these years, the crisis and economic crisis and things, that's when we Venezuelans started to see how everything in the economy is pretty much priced in dollars. So if you want to sell a car, people won't sell that car in bolivars, in the local currency. They're going to put the price tag in dollars, and so that you immediately recognize and you see, well, so if I want to pay this with bolivars, I have to convert it at the current rate. So because if you have a car and you want to sell that car and you sell it for bolivars, the bolivar has a devaluation rate of about 2 to 3% each day. So people don't believe that the inflation rate for the United States the last year was 2%, and we have that each day. So for a normal Venezuelan, the inflation rate is something like 2,000% over 1 year or so. So what we're saying is that the economy is driven by U.S. dollars. So people who are using Bitcoin, the main use case for Bitcoin in Venezuela is not payments. I mean, it's no one accepts. Pretty much every store that you see in the street, they don't accept Bitcoin because it's not popular.
Okay.
What Bitcoin is Bitcoin is being used in Venezuela as a store of value, and to send remittances abroad or to receive remittances. So due to the great rate of immigration from Venezuela, many people are sending their loved ones and family money to Venezuela, and they use Bitcoin because it's much more easier and the rate is much more convenient.
I see.
So that's the main use case here in Venezuela. The other thing is that many merchants, like business owners and the high class, the 1%, if you will, they all know about Bitcoin. They are using Bitcoin to store their wealth, their family wealth, their patrimony, because like I said, the bolivar is getting devaluated at a crazy rate. So if you want to see a mind-blowing statistic, the Venezuelan government last month, they increased the monetary base, the M1 monetary base, by 50%.
Wow.
So so the government is basically printing money away to be able to pay their bills and pay their workers and etc. So that puts inflationary pressure onto all of us, and we're basically paying for the government. We're paying them.
Wow.
Because inflation is just a tax for them.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Get ready for Crypto Overload. We're making it easy to get into the game at America's Card Room with your favorite cryptocurrency. We are thrilled to announce that you can deposit and cash out using more than 60 different cryptocurrencies. We are the first poker site to offer this after already accepting Bitcoin from the beginning. Cryptocurrencies are the future. We can predict that playing real money poker will never be easier at americascardroom.com.
So in the news over the past couple of weeks, speaking of just printing currency and the government's reaction to Bitcoin, your president, Nicolas Maduro, is he wants to get in the cryptocurrency game by launching the Petra, an oil-backed cryptocurrency. The Guardian and Reuters and CoinDesk and a couple different news outlets have covered this. Do you have any initial reactions on this sort of centralized cryptocurrency backed by a commodity? And I don't know, any unique insights on how this is sort of thought about or discussed in Venezuela? Like what's going on with Maduro's Petra?
Yeah, that definitely took us by surprise. Well, I heard rumors before the official announcement that the government was preparing to regulate the cryptocurrency thing, and they will officially acknowledge Bitcoin. But I didn't expect the government to launch its own cryptocurrency. I don't think anyone expected that, because it's the first time in history that a government acknowledged the useful the good benefits of a cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I initially I don't think it's a good idea, honestly. And I think that if the government cannot, if this government cannot have a viable monetary policy with a with a physical currency such as the dollar, imagine what they can do with a cryptocurrency. I mean,
that's a good point.
Yeah, so they have consistently mismanaged the economy. They have dragged the economy down, and when President Chavez, when this government started, Venezuela was producing 3 million barrels of oil per day, and now they're down to 1.9 million. So if they're going to create a oil-backed currency, cryptocurrency, I don't think it will have much value if the oil production keeps going down. So, they have made promises that the new Petra, the currency, will be backed by natural resources. Venezuela has many natural resources, such as diamonds, gold. We have oil, obviously, and other rare minerals and things that are used for electronics and things. The problem is that there is no production, because there are no foreign investment being taking place in Venezuela. Many private capitals, they don't want to invest in Venezuela because this government has not created the right environment for them to invest. So I honestly don't have any expectations for that currency. I think that that's just a pure stunt to be in the news and try to impress people. But honestly, I don't expect much from it, because I honestly don't. They have not released any details about how they will release the currency. We don't know in which platform will run. We don't know if it's going to be an RCA20 Ethereum token, or if it's going to be an ICO, or if we don't know anything. And it will be very interesting to see how they're going to implement it. I expect that it will be a private blockchain. I expect that it will have some kind of inflation priced in. I don't think they're going to launch something like Bitcoin with a 21 million coin cap, because if this government has an inflation rate of 20,000% each year, I don't think they will release a currency with a cap on the amount of coins. So, if they release something on a private blockchain with some sort of infinite supply, I don't know. It's very likely that they will go that route, because this government has been addicted to inflation over the last years. This government is addicted to print money to be able to pay their bills, and I don't have any expectations. And I think that anyone who invests or puts a Bitcoin into a El Petro, or the currency, whatever the name will be, it's very idiotic. It's very stupid to do that, because I don't have any expectation for this government to
Yeah, no, that makes
drive
sense.
that volume.
You can't just poorly manage fiat money, printing fiat money, and then make it cryptographic and expect everything to magically become better. But this isn't even the first time Venezuela has tried a novel currency to sort of remedy its economic problems. Hugo Chavez launched the sucre a couple years back, and so not strictly a cryptocurrency, obviously, but a virtual currency to try to improve Venezuela's economy, and that didn't that didn't end up so well either. So I guess no big expectations for the Petra when it launches.
Yeah, I mean, the regular citizens never heard of El Sucre, or they didn't interact with it. It was just a currency to be used between governments, and
Yes.
that even took off. I mean, that was a total failure.
Yeah.
So we don't know. At this point, we don't know anything. What many people are concerned. I mean, the government created a blockchain, like a blockchain consortium or something like that. It was just they created like a government body who will oversee the creation of this new cryptocurrency, like a Petra. And the only thing I'm hopeful for is that there are many smart people. That we have many of popular local people who are involved in the Bitcoin space. Some of them are on that. They will collaborate. They will help on that endeavor of the government creating the Petro. I don't know. Maybe they will be able to, put an influence and make the government do something nice. But I don't know, because this government has consistently surrounding themselves with smart people, but apparently their voices are never heard. So I don't know. I don't think it will be a success. But
Okay. So I want to ask you about one interesting article Bloomberg ran. It's not specific to Venezuela, but this past week, on Friday, I think it was, Bloomberg ran an interesting piece, and you sort of touched on it earlier about how plenty of wealthy Venezuelans and wealthy individuals around the world generally are sort of accumulating Bitcoin out of speculation or because they want to protect their wealth against inflationary currencies. And I'm curious to know your thoughts on this sort of phenomenon that's happening, because the idea of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is to make wealth, or put the power of the control over your own wealth in your own hands, and not leave it up to a currency that is in some sense infinite, can be printed ad nauseum at the whims of whoever is in power. But as the price continues to climb and sort of exclude poorer individuals from acquiring more and more Bitcoin, or at least whole Bitcoins, or whatever the case may be, what is your take on whether or not Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies at large make the rich richer and then sort of leave poor individuals to sort of catch up if they can, and that sort of thing? Do you have any thoughts on that?
yeah, I read that article, and I think it's a little bit misleading in the sense that they're saying that family offices are investing in cryptocurrency across Latin America. And the reality is that a family office is an endeavor that manages millions of dollars, and there's no such thing going on in Latin America. Nowadays, everyone with a couple $1 million claims themselves a cryptocurrency investor, or claims themselves managing a hedge fund. Yeah, that's the reality. Many people, the number of hedge funds appear in the last year in the cryptocurrency scene is insane. There's dozens and dozens of hedge funds, and the reality is just many of them are just rich kids, not rich kids, but people who got rich with cryptocurrency, and they're thinking that they can outgame or disrupt the financial world. And many of them will fail. I can tell you that. And the reality is that in Latin America, many people of young age, are increasingly becoming interested in cryptocurrency, because not just because they are seeing as a get rich quick scheme, but because the reality is in Latin America, it is very hard to access foreign currency. It's not just Venezuela. This has happened before in Argentina, where before President Macri took power, that Argentina was undergoing a currency control mechanism as well as Venezuela, just like Venezuela. And that currency control mechanism was making people unable to access euros or dollars in Argentina. So it is very hard. The friction is very high in Latin America for normal citizens to access foreign currency. So that's why Bitcoin is becoming increasingly popular, and the reason why cryptocurrencies are becoming a thing in Latin America. So I don't see cryptocurrencies being a tool for the rich to get richer, because in fact, what I think is it makes us, the little guy, be able to trade financial instruments. I never thought that a 17-year-old kid will be able to trade cryptocurrencies or be able to trade the markets, high volatile markets, from their computer, from their phone. That wasn't heard of before. So I think cryptocurrencies actually give tools for little guys to defend themselves and to access those markets that previously were just restricted for the people with capital, people with resources.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate that. We're sort of approaching the 30-minute mark here, and I'm curious if you have, given your story and the story of the monetary and economic history of Venezuela in general, if we could sort of wrap up on a note that I think would be critical for a lot of the people that I interact with here in the States, on the importance of cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, which you mentioned is king. And I would imagine around the world, not just in Venezuela, but here in the United States, we're sort of privileged because our currency does inflate 2 to 3% per year, not per week, or per day, did you say?
Per day. In Venezuela, is per day, yeah.
And so they sort of look at cryptocurrency as a novel thing that a bunch of technological geeks and economic policy wonks maybe bought in several years ago and now maybe are a little bit wealthier, but not necessarily something that they want to touch or have a need for. What would you say to someone in the United States who has a relatively stable currency and doesn't understand the level of need for this tool that you and your friends and coworkers experience daily?
Yeah, that's a very good question. For those people that will say, hey, Bitcoin is useful, Bitcoin has a real use case, I use it to survive, my friends use it to survive, I've been seeing Bitcoin being used to access international markets to be able to buy goods abroad. So I work on Purse, and we enable you to buy things from us and paying with Bitcoin. And what we've been seeing on Purse is that many Venezuelans, we have a high number of Venezuelan users on Purse. We see them buying GPUs, buying mining equipment, or even buying, food, or some guy was buying Prime Pantry stuff out of Amazon and ship it to Venezuela. We have been seeing that on Purse, and we see people making use of cryptocurrency to survive, to be able to cope with crisis. So I will say to them, Bitcoin isn't just to speculate. Bitcoin is not just get rich quick scheme. Bitcoin is useful. We use it. We can send payments, uncensorable payments, unstoppable payments. We can protect our wealth. We can protect our patrimony. We can save our value with Bitcoin, and I think that really has value. That really has an importance that people sometimes understated. So yes, Bitcoin is useful. Bitcoin is not just to speculate, and we have been seeing that here in Venezuela. We're seeing that in Latin America, and hopefully we'll see that in other emerging continents like Africa and China and Japan, where it's becoming a thing. In South Korea, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are, every kid who was playing League of Legends is now buying cryptocurrency and trading it 24/7. So Bitcoin is definitely useful, and I think it's many people are saying it will become like a utopia where everyone will transact with Bitcoin. I don't know if that's going to be the case. What I see is that it's being used right here, right now, and the technology is real. The technology is real, and the development scene is increasingly driving into Bitcoin, into Ethereum, and other cryptocurrencies. So Bitcoin is useful. Bitcoin works.
That's great. Eduardo, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight and spending some time explaining to all our listeners the use and development and challenges of Bitcoin and other currency and economic issues in Venezuela. Again, you can follow Eduardo on Twitter at Codiox, Codiox, and visit Purse at purse.io. Thanks so much, Eduardo. We really appreciate it, and hopefully maybe we can chat again sometime and get you back on the show.
Thank you, Zach. It was a pleasure, and to the audience, keep it up. Hold. Don't sell your Bitcoin.
Hold, yes. Thanks again, Eduardo. Good luck, everyone, with, I guess this is a pre-recorded episode, so as we've been talking, futures trading has started on CBOE, or at least they were supposed to. I think the website got DDoS'd. Come back on Thursday for a live episode, and new episodes out every Monday also. Thanks again to Eduardo, and thanks to all our listeners, and good luck until next time.